We all want students to be better writers, and sometimes we might approach this through using writing programs or through using worksheets to help them learn how to write. What are the pros and cons of using formulaic writing programs or formulaic writing approaches? That's what we're talking about in this video. Hi everyone, I'm Leah Hall from Literacy Teachers, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to inspire, motivate, and change how your students read and write for academic success. If you're new here, welcome. This is the place to come for tips and advice on literacy instructional techniques that can improve your students' abilities to read and write. So today we're talking about the pros and cons of using formulaic writing programs or formulaic writing approaches, okay? So you might have a writing program that you have to implement that expects students to follow a particular pattern of writing, a particular approach, might give you specific worksheets that they're expected to complete. Or you just might be using, right, a particular formulaic structure to teach your students writing, right? Like the 5-paragraph essay, very common formulaic approach to teaching writing. What's better here, right? How do we think about this? Do these approaches really help kids? What are the pros and cons? All right, so let's start out with the pros, okay? Because I think what you're going to find is that personally, I see pros and cons to both, and I think, well, to using formulaic approaches and to also not using formulaic approaches, and I think my answer in the end is you want a blend, all right? So here are some of the pros. First of all, a formulaic approach provides a scaffold, okay? So if you're teaching a student how to write an essay for the first time or how to write a particular kind of essay or in a particular genre, you're teaching them how to do things like take notes, you're teaching them how to outline, whatever you're teaching them, giving them a worksheet or a formula to do it helps them cognitively learn the skill, okay? So this is particularly useful for English language learners. It's particularly useful for students that might have some really bad experiences with writing, struggle with writing, don't see themselves as good writers. Kids that have that are really, really good writers that write a lot no matter what, it's gonna be less useful and probably frustrating for them and get in their way, all right? Now, formulaic approaches to writing can build students' confidence around writing because it gives them a particular structure to work in, okay? And so they can see what needs to be done. They can see that they are making progress. They can see the steps. It makes a writing process that can be really nebulous seem more manageable, all right? It can also, another pro here is it can allow students to focus on specific things and not have to worry about other things. So formulaic approaches can reduce the cognitive load and free up space for students to really learn particular skills that you want them to learn, all right? So what are some of the pros that you've experienced? Head down to the comments section. Tell me what it is that you like about using formulaic writing programs or structures. Let's talk about that a little bit. Now, let's shift into what some of these cons are, okay? So if you only use formulaic approaches, then students are never being given the opportunity to take full control, full responsibility for their writing. If all they're ever doing is a 5-paragraph essay, if they're always filling out a worksheet for an outline, if they're always revising using a checklist of things to look for, then they're never having to develop their own writing process, okay? They also run the risk of, having students think that writing has to look a certain way, that it has to follow a certain process, that the process looks the same for everybody, that the final product looks the same for everybody. And in doing so, it limits creativity and it limits students' abilities to understand what writing looks like, okay? And it also runs the risks of promoting a model of good writing, at least in the minds of students, that's actually really formulaic and stiff. And while it might have, high quality grammar and it might be clear and convey a main idea, in the end, it's just a pattern. It's just a pattern of writing that really isn't anything but good writing, okay? So I would say use these formulas, these formulaic approaches and programs as scaffolds, as ways to reduce cognitive load, to teach students more complicated skills, and then pull back on them and start letting students engage and develop their own writing process. But what are the pros that you see? And what are the cons that you see in using these approaches? Head on down to the comments and let's talk about them. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all my videos. I'm looking forward to hearing your pros and your cons, your interpretations and experiences about using formulaic writing programs and approaches to teach writing instruction.